Alright, welcome back. So, we're going to be doing navigation meshes. And to do navigation meshes, you actually do need some little bit of blendering. So, the first thing you're going to do is we're going to go into Blender, an empty one. I have nothing. So, I'm just going to create a little plane. I'm going to make it probably like 100 meters, whatever. And we got a little plane over here. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to make like holes inside it so it could be interesting. And the way to do that is actually you use cubes. We'll scale it up just a little bit. And this is for demonstration purposes. I already have one I made for C++. I just forgot to save it because I didn't think that far ahead. Anyways, so now we have an object that's a cube. What we can do is we can just press S to scale it on Y, and we can scale it in one area. So now we have a block, and it's an obstacle. And the thing is, it intersects through the plane. We can do a lot more. We can design our own intricate pathing, but for now, let's just show you how we can actually use this. So if we go into our plane and we go into our modifier properties, and then we add a Boolean modifier into a difference and choose the object that we want as the intersection, when we hide our object, that makes a hole inside the plane. So if we were to actually apply it and delete our cube, we have a hole in our plane, right? And it is a basic simple little circle inside. And what we can do from there is, let's say we wanted to use this, we press File, Export into FBX, and the thing we're gonna do is we're just gonna export it wherever we want. The forward has to be Y, and the up has to be Z. Apply unit and space transformation, and just export the FBX. Once you exported it, I already have one. I have it right here, mesh thingy. Once you export it, you have it right here. And then what you can do is you can create a navigation mesh like this. So to create one, let's just redo it. Let me just remove that. Let's just delete that. So let's create one by right-clicking in the world, create, and then we go into our navigation, click navigation mesh. It will ask you which mesh you want. We're gonna go for the one that we saved. Go inside the FBX, and then you have the mesh. And we save it, put it here. I'm just gonna zero it out. So now we're here. We got our little mesh. We're also gonna open the helpers, and we're gonna click on the gizmos so we can see it even when we're not clicking on it. The next thing I'm gonna do is just make it easy for myself. I'm gonna take all the paths that I have, or like points inside the navigation mesh. So in my case, these points are here. So let's just click them, put them in here. And each point is basically just a little dot inside the navigation mesh space. It's inside the area itself. And we're just gonna, I just put in random 4 spots like that. Coolio. So with that clicked and that put on, what we're gonna do is now we're gonna go into our shooter AI. I made a nav node, public node, that's nav over here. And we're just gonna link that navigation mesh into it so we can start playing with it. All right, so what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be having 2 extra things. The first thing we're gonna have is d vector 3 array of path points. All right, and then the next thing we're gonna have is path route, and we're also gonna have a array of this because we want like 4 routes, right? We're gonna make a circle, so it's gonna go in a circle, and we're just gonna call it pathings or pathing, whatever it was. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add, let's see, let's just add 2 functions, and I'm just gonna call it void nav create, and the next one would be void nav visualize, so we can actually see them for our own thing. Now for nav create, we're gonna put it inside our init. I can't speak today. In our init. All right, and for visualize, we're gonna add that in our update. Now, the next thing we're also gonna do is we're just gonna mute the other stuff that we don't want, like these visualizers. What other visualizer do we not like? Probably this. Doesn't really matter for that. Okay, so we muted the other visualizers just so we can see this nav visualize properly. All right, now to actually create this. Well, there's a few things we can do. We can also add one more thing. It's navigation mesh, NavMesh, and I'm gonna add that in there. So let's start. For navigation create, let's actually first connect that NavMesh. NavMesh equals to nav node as navigation mesh. So that connects our navigation mesh into our NavMesh proper. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the points. As you remember, I put all the points inside the children of the nav node. So we're just going to use a simple for loop. Int I length is 4, and let's actually do that right here. So equals to new dvec3, and I'm just going to choose 4 over here. And for pathing, new path route 4. So now it knows it's 4. So now we could just do path points dot length. So now it's going to do in length. And for this, we're going to do nav node dot get child child number I dot world position. So now we get all the world position, and let's just connect that. So path points I equal to, and now that's connected. So now we have all of that inside our object. Now let's just make another for loop. This one is going to be pathing dot length, and for this, what we're going to do is we're going to have it go from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and then 3 to 0. So that's pretty simple. We're just going to do pathing I equals to oh yeah, actually, before we even do that, we're actually going to have to create these points, because we may have an array, but we don't really have a new path route. So pathing I equals to new path route. All right, so that creates a new path route. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do create 2D. 3D uses space, 2D just uses the X and Y coordinates. We're just going to use the 2D, and what we're going to do is we're going to take the path points I, and then path points, and let's just do a little function, I plus 1 modulus path points dot length. So it loops around, right? So we got 0, 1, and then it goes up 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 0. All right, so now that we have these connected, the last thing we're going to do is actually visualize these. So the first thing we're going to do is visualize the NavMesh. NavMesh dot render visualizer, and that will render our NavMesh. And that's it. Now, what we're going to do for this is we're just going to do a for each loop, and for our item, we're going to call it paths or path inside our pathing. All right, and we're going to do a simple if statement. If path dot is reached, so if it actually connects the path, or if the path is possible, then path dot render visualizer, and it's going to ask for a color, so we're going to choose vector for white. And that is all in terms of displaying our navigation and checking if it works. So let's hope it works. All right, now since I had I made a new camera and just made it point in the forward, we see our nav mesh perfectly. We see the points that we created right here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we also see the points that it used or made new to get through the area via A-star algorithm. So our character, or if our node was to go around, we could actually just use these points. Now there's also something called radius, and making the objects smaller, etc., etc., or how big the object should be as it's going through the route. Let me just right here, and I believe it's somewhere here. But anyways, so we have a navigation, a NavMesh, and its automatic A-star pathfinding algorithm to find how to get there. So the next thing we're going to do is actually add obstacles inside these nav meshes, or objects that have obstacles inside in their masking, so that when we actually go to it, we're going to go through it, like this example here, where if an object is just rotating, it's going to go around it or find a newer path. So with that in mind, I think we will stop over here, and next episode we're going to go through obstacles, and then third, or maybe in that same episode, we're going to get the object to move around in this area and also have the state switching around. So instead, when he's on alert or attack, he's going to be chasing us around this, inside this navigation mesh. And yeah, that's about it. All right, until then, I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.